Welcome, everybody. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for being right where you are. You may not know this, you may have forgot, but you're exactly where you need to be. And that may be a beautiful reminder, or that might be hard and painful. But the reality is that somehow or other, we are exactly where we need to be right now. And if you feel like you need a little support, you feel like you need a little bit of extra love, that's what we're here for, to remind you that you're not alone, that we're in this together, and that, yeah, that you're doing great. Keep it up. This is Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center check-in, and we're coming at you live from wherever we are. I'm in New York. She's in Florida. I'm with Rukmini Podar. My name is
Live
Dayal. We're
on
glad you're
Zoom.
here. Live on Zoom. Yeah, we're live on Zoom. How you doing, Rooks?
I'm good, Dale. I want to let you know you are a great radio host. I know it's a podcast. You're a great podcast host too. But as I was listening to you, I was like, man, you just have like the voice for a radio host and for what you're doing. It comes out so naturally. I really just want to acknowledge that.
I've been loud my whole life. I'm glad that it has a positive outlet finally. My
Uh,
sister, my entire life, her was always asking me to be quiet. You're so loud. And I was like, one
it's
day I'm
all
gonna
about
find a
gut
use for
feeling.
this voice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good, Dale. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Fridays are my Thursdays are my latest night of the week because we have Thursday night kirtan at the
Oh,
Bhakti
how was
Center.
that?
It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's one of those things again, just like showing up and just Thursday night kirtan was the first thing we started to do coming out of the pandemic all the way back to like 2 years ago. And it was kind of like the first sign of life again in person at the Bhakti Center, and it's become again that steady heartbeat. We get 100 plus people every Thursday, and different people come. And it's also that we were talking yesterday about like just kind of showing up, and that's kind of been our theme this week. And you know it's still Thursday night kirtan. Is it? We never know who's going to show up in terms of audience, or even kirtaniya. Sometimes some people come, some people don't come. We started the night. It was just Kamala. You know Kamala, the
Yeah, yeah,
dancer.
yeah.
She debuted her first kirtan. It was beautiful.
Oh,
She didn't play the harmonium, so she just played kartals, and I played mridanga. That's how we
amazing.
started.
You know, some of
Yeah.
my best memories in New York are at Thursday Night Kirtan. I mean, we've
Yeah.
had wild Thursday Night Kirtan. Like, for anyone who doesn't know, when I lived at the Bhakti Center, that would be my services greeting people for many years, even before, like when I just moved in, my service was actually to make cookies and to give it out to every person who came. And I loved doing that because people were so excited about the vegan chocolate chip cookies. But really,
Yeah.
it was just mind blowing. We opened the reception, we had like 200 people easily. Sometimes we had way more than that. And it was just this like very dynamic, super exciting. People would come from all over. Yeah, it was just some of the best of times. That being said, I would wish it was live streamed. The other day I was thinking about it. I was like, I think they're like doing something for Kadamba Kanana Maharaj in honor of him. Like, I wish I could tune into what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't know
We
if they
need
will
that
do that.
too. We're kind of limited in our
I
bandwidth on
know.
certain things. We're just kind of like a show up and get it done. And at
Yeah.
some point, we're about to have a volunteer drive at the Bhakti Center in
Mm.
April, and we want to get a
For a
graphics
live
and media
streamer.
team to help us with
Yeah.
live streaming and videography and different stuff. And so
Mm.
that'll be coming very soon. That'll be coming very soon.
I'll be excited when it
Yeah.
comes. Anyway.
Aside from that, all good otherwise?
Yeah, I don't know if we have a topic in mind, but what's been on my mind this morning has been envy. And
Oh, who are
I
you
thought,
envious of? Tell me.
well, I mean, at the moment, it's not like a particular envy that I'm having, although that's always there. It's more the
Who's envious
concept
of
of
you?
yeah, I mean, that I'm not sure either. That could happen too. But the reason I brought up envy is because I'm drawing envy. That's what I was doing right before this call. My 100-day project this year is drawing an emotion every day. So I was meditating on envy. And I was thinking, like, what is envy? And why is there always different definitions of it? And especially in the Bhakti tradition, we talk about envy being like the worst of things. And I don't know. It's just on my mind. I'm just throwing it out there. If you want to put a hook in there and catch the topic and discuss more. But
Well,
yeah.
envy is really interesting because I was thinking about it earlier this week. Uh, that I saw Glennon Doyle speak live in Brooklyn. This is maybe 5 years ago, and she was speaking about envy. and she's a
Mhm.
creator. She's an author mostly, but now she's more than an author. But at the time, she was a blogger. She used to make a
Mhm.
blog when people did blogs, and she wrote books. And she was releasing her second book, and she was describing envy as that indicator of what you're meant to create.
Mhm.
Because when you see somebody doing something that you're envious of, it points to some sense in you that I'm meant to be doing that.
Mm.
And so it's sort of like, rather than getting angry at the other person for doing it or having it, how can I use that as fuel to look at what I feel is lacking in me? Because I think I've been meditating about this also, about like, how can I shift from being consumed by the things I can't control and shifting
Mm.
back to the things within my control.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know, anxiety, fear, depression, like all of those things are related towards a feeling of absorption in things that I cannot control,
Yeah, being out
as
of
opposed
control.
as opposed to shifting it back to like, okay, angry at somebody else for having something, angry at God for not giving me something, to shifting into like, what do I feel is lacking in me? What is
Mm.
it that I feel that I'm meant to be creating? And how can I create that? I was just this morning, I listened to I heard a clip from an interview or a TEDx talk or something from Kobe Bryant. And he
Mm.
said, all we're meant to do is dance beautifully in the box that we're given. He said, and
Wow.
he said, all our boxes are going to be, and are going to look differently. He said, my box was to be extremely ambitious in the sport of basketball. Your
Mhm.
box might be something totally different, but it doesn't mean that it's less or more beautiful. It's like, we have this canvas that we have, and we just need to make it as beautiful as possible. And I think that relates to a lot of what we've been discussing this week,
Mhm.
which is, humility is not playing it small, but it's actually learning to embrace your own shine. And I think
Mhm.
envy is when we see other people, shining in a particular way, and it indicates to us maybe how we've been hiding from our own shine. And we
Mhm.
can shift that back to like, oh, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like the same, okay, recognition or wealth reciprocation as the other person, but it can still be beautiful in my own way.
Mm. That's such a nice way to connect the two, Doyle. I was wondering, yeah, what's that
I
connection
tried.
with envy? No, it makes so much sense. I feel also that envy comes, I mean, the root of it is the lack, it's the sense of that I'm not enough, and it's the comparison. And I think, like you
Mm.
said, when we're dancing in our own boxes and feeling good in that, that feeling won't come up as strongly. And it can be, like, I like the idea it's an indicator. I was thinking I had wrote in my journal some time ago that when I'm not doing the things that really light me up, when I'm not creating regularly, for me, that's a big
Mm.
one. I feel like just this frustration. I just feel like I get so aggravated so easily, and I get envious really easily. I see something in
Mm.
someone, I see a beautiful person, I see a charismatic person, I see something. And envy is also so interesting because it's hard to notice, at least for myself. Like, I feel like it can be a very subtle emotion. It's not this, and sometimes it can be strong words like I want what that person has. But sometimes for me, it shows up as like annoyance towards someone and annoyance towards myself. But I can't quite articulate it as, oh, I want something that someone has. It's like hard. It takes a while to admit that, because I think just admitting envy can be like quite shameful too, especially if we're not used to talking about it. But I was thinking that I brought it back to this root feeling of like, wow, when I'm not doing certain things that make me feel like myself, that really have that make me feel very natural in what I'm doing, then those feelings come up. So that is true. It is an indicator, which is nice to come back to.
I love what you shared about when I'm not creating regularly, when I'm not investing in my own shine. We've been using this word shine a
Mm,
lot. I think that's really beautiful. And I think that you run a 100-day project often. And I think that the theme or the substance behind the 100-day project is um consistency over perfection.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And not feeling like something needs to be perfect in order for us to show up for it. And I
Mhm.
think that that gets in the way sometimes, when I think that it keeps us from trying, because I think that something needs to be like, I remember like when I was a little kid, I wanted to learn how to skateboard, and I never did because I thought that I wasn't cool enough. And when every time I got a skateboard, and every time that I went out into the street to practice, I was like, I look so stupid. I'm such a fool. All the
You
other
weren't Tony
good
Hawk status yet.
yeah, all the other good skateboarders are going to be like, what is this bozo doing trying to skateboard? Like, he can't even do
Mm,
anything. And it was like, because I didn't allow myself to be a beginner.
that's such a great point. The beginner's mindset. It's so
Yeah, I
hard.
didn't.
It's so hard to be a
Super hard.
beginner, especially the older you get, the more shameful it feels, even though we should always be beginning.
Totally. Yeah. And I thought like, well, I was supposed to start skateboarding like several years ago, you know? And so like feeling late to the game and feeling like this hesitancy to adopt the beginner's mindset. I think the beginner's mindset is the continuous key towards our development in life in general, specifically even spiritual life. Like, also when you said envy, I was thinking of the word, one of my favorite words, and Srila Prabhupada has a beautiful commentary on in the Bhagavad Gita, um, where he mentions that this is the first verse of the ninth chapter, the first verse of the ninth chapter. And Krishna speaks to Arjuna. He says, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So this
Hmm.
envy itself becomes like this fog, this fire that we sit in. And you said like, it's so interesting how you translated it to like an annoyance,
Yeah.
because it becomes this irritation that's just not comfortable to
Irritation.
sit in. And
Mhm.
Srila Prabhupada in his commentary, he mentions really beautifully, he says that Krishna understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, and gives them the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of devotees. He understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity, and gives the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna and the association of devotees. And so this sense of it's not about the external magnanimity. Is that a word?
Mm,
Magnanimity? Do we
yeah.
have our word nerd? Who's our official word nerd?
Word nerd.
Magnanimity, not like a size, scale, massiveness, um, but the quality, you know.
Mm.
And so, anyways, those are some words and reflections. What's on your mind when you brought that up, and what have you been thinking?
Well, I was thinking of my relationship to envy in my own life,
Yeah.
and how it often it's something I would be like, no, I'm not an envious person. Once I told that to a friend, well, like a teacher, someone who knows me, a mentor, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I experienced much envy. And they were, they didn't say what I thought they would say. They were like, you should look a little bit deeper, Rukmini. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait a second. But what's funny is that I started noticing it everywhere. And I noticed it as a little bit more subtle. And I was curious also just how Krishna sees envy, or how Prabhupada writes about envy, because hearing a lot of the scriptures when we talk about envy, it's different than, I mean, what, like just what you wrote, it's not exactly like, oh, I want something they have, but it's like, what does it mean to be envious of God? That's something that's brought up again and again. Arjuna is an envious of God. So that's something I'm just thinking about. I don't know your take on it.
I think it just really all points back to that feeling of lack,
Mm.
sense of like incompleteness, the
Mhm.
sense that like I can't be happy until, like I think that's a great fill in the blank journal prompt for all of us, is, I will be happy when fill in the
Oh,
blank. I can't be happy unless fill in the blank. And it's just like, whoa. So you've given your happiness over to somebody. I need an apology. I need this. I need that. And it's like, okay, so now you've given over your power, the power of your own well-being, over to whatever it is outside of you. And this is like a very
mhm.
dangerous, fragile place to live. And so I think like, what are the things I think I need outside of myself in order to be happy? And and what envy is, I mean, there's like, whenever envy comes up as a topic, the idea of the contrast between jealousy and enviousness comes up. And jealousy is sort of like wanting what someone else has, And I think an
Mhm.
envy is like, I want it, and if I can't have it, you can't have it. Or
Yeah.
if I want it, but I don't want you to have it. And there's like an anger towards an individual for having something that you don't have. Like anger is
Mhm.
that animosity towards somebody who has something that you don't have. And it really becomes this, I think, this over absorption in somebody else's life rather than my own.
That's
Um,
great. An
and I think a lot of
overabsorption.
times we have this over absorption in other people's lives rather than focusing on our own. And like Kobe Bryant said, worrying about the size, shape,
Mhm.
appearance of somebody else's arena of
Mhm.
life, box, canvas, rather than my own, and comparing. You know,
Mhm.
you've wrote it so many times that comparison is the thief of joy, which I think is
Mhm.
really beautiful. I have a sticker of that you gave me here
Did
in my
I?
house somewhere.
Oh yeah, I think I did make a sticker one.
Yeah, I get little goodie packages from your
Yeah,
groupsie in the
that's
mail here
so
and there,
cute.
stickers and notebooks and postcards.
What I'm best
Um,
at.
but I
Yeah,
think
I
that
like that.
comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that, again, the theme, I think, of this whole week has just been focusing on our own journey.
Yeah, and staying in our own lane and being able to kind of, what's the word, celebrate our shine, see our shine. Um, I'm really liking what you said just now about the absorption in someone else's life rather than my own. I think that's really powerful. And I think it's getting harder and harder to not do that these days. I mean, social media literally is just a device that gets you absorbed outside of your life into someone
Wow.
else's detail, into all the details of someone else's life.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And so what does it look like? How do you how do you how do you how do you change that? What does it look like for you? Or what do you think for people listening? They're like, yeah, that sounds good, but what do I do about it?
Yeah, like how do you stop getting absorbed in other
Yeah, and
people's
what does it
lives and
mean to
yourself?
feel confident enough and comfortable enough to, because I think sometimes the reason is that we look at our lives and we hate ourselves sometimes, or we don't
Mm,
like where we're
that's
at,
heavy.
or we don't
Mhm.
we don't there's a lot of self deprecation or feeling a lack of self-worth, or whether it's just conditioning that we've built from childhood, or just, whatever it might be. Like, in one sense, everything in the mind is like, is is feels like it's serving us in some ways. There's a reason why we react in certain ways, and it's because it's a inner coping mechanism that's trying to avoid some level of pain or discomfort
Mm,
or emptiness that we might be feeling. And so it's just like a reaction mechanism to just try to like avoid that. It may be unhealthy and it may be actually becoming more harm or damage, but the system is doing the best that it can to try to protect itself. And so
mm.
the idea of like, yeah, just like focus on your own life, and um can also be easier said than done, because we've learned to just like actually hit the eject button so easily, because um it's
Yeah, we
hard, and
don't
we
know
don't
how to
have a
focus
natural
on
sense of self value.
it. Yeah, yeah, how to stop getting absorbed in other people's lives or go down that kind of shame spiral or envy spiral or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, the simplicity is like just appreciate something. Just get out of your own story, get out of your own center, go for a walk, appreciate the river. I don't know. This is what I would do. This is what helps
Mm.
actually when I
One of
create.
the words that came up in our chat was acceptance. And I wrote about that recently on my own feed, about like misunderstanding and acceptance, about how being misunderstood by others, because I think there's a fear of being misunderstood. And that the solution, rather than trying to get other people to understand me, how can I use that as an indicator of a greater need for self-acceptance in myself?
Mm,
Um,
that's
and so,
beautiful. That's what Sydney's sharing in the chat as well.
yeah, that's what she was mentioning about acceptance. And so, um, you know, yeah, I think you've been on an amazing journey for that. And so, what has your own acceptance journey looked like towards yourself and your ups and
making
downs of your
friends with
career and your
parts of
art and your
myself.
journey and your writing. And we want to speak to something about acceptance,
Accept.
self-acceptance.
What a
What does
big topic.
self-acceptance mean to you?
It's so big and so simple at the same time. Well, in a very practical way, something I've been exploring is making friends with parts of myself. Just the
Mm,
concept of understanding parts of myself is really revolutionary. Instead of getting upset, like, oh, I'm this envious person, now I'm identifying as an envious person. I'm like, oh, there's a little part of me that feels envy. What does this part look like? What age is she? Oh, she's like a little 7-year-old girl. Oh, what color is she? What does she do? What is her body language? That's a very visual way, actually, that I've been practicing acceptance. In a very creative way too. Um, I even draw this little part sometimes, or I write letters to this part. It's very powerful, and if someone wants to try that, if they're inclined to it, there's so many ways to practice acceptance, and yeah, that's one way that I do
I really, really love that, because I think that it's so helpful for us to step out and rather think that this is me, but this is a part of me. And
Yeah,
I can have a relationship with that person in dialogue rather than letting that part of me run the show. I
exactly.
could actually have a dialogue and listen to that part and hear from it. What is it trying to do, and what does it need, and what is it saying? And again, yeah, like what age is that part, and what do they look
Yeah, like
like? And
what would it say if it could? Like maybe we just don't give it a voice sometimes, and so it just takes over the body. But if I think there's a beautiful quote, like if I allowed my anger to really speak and say something, what would it tell me? And it would tell me that its name is actually grief. There's something like that, which is
mm,
really beautiful. And so I think that, wow, we have all these feelings and emotions and all this stuff going on. What if we saw it as parts and we gave them names and personalities and we talked to it? It's something that recently I've been fascinated with. I've even done some workshops where we draw out our parts. But okay, I'll just share one example I heard from this coach. And she says that every morning she practices self acceptance. And the way she does it is that she has tea with all of her parts. So she makes like a cup of tea and she has like an index card and she writes all of her parts that she meets that morning. The part of me that's really tired, the part of me that feels a lot of resentment, the part of me that's burnt out, the part of me that feels curious. And she has tea with them and she talks to them. So this might be a little woo woo, a little strange, but as a creative person, I just thought that was so endearing and funny and
yeah,
cool and also like effective.
yeah. Don't live stream that tea party,
Yeah, yeah.
but the concept of it is beautiful. And I agree with that. I mean, and it sound, and like, for example, even the idea of like talking to ourselves sounds so like woo woo, but like we're talking to ourselves and our parts constantly anyways.
Yeah.
The constant chatter and dialogue that's taking place in the mind of, like, if people could understand what's going on in the head, we'd
Mhm,
all be crazy.
mhm.
And so why not just accept that that's going on and embrace it and find a healthy way to engage with it? I think that's beautiful. I think it's really beautiful, the idea of just like, I'm going to have tea with the different part, even just taking the work and identifying the different parts of myself,
Oh, that's a big one. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's my medicine of choice. Drawing and writing to my parts. I should do it more often, but it's quite nice. I don't know how we got on that topic, but
I
it's a
asked
nice
because we're
place
talking about
to be.
acceptance.
Yeah, it's
We were
acceptance
talking
of
about
the
accepting, understanding parts of yourself and
mm.
accepting that part of yourself.
Yeah, that's the medicine from too much absorption in other people's life or feeling the envy or feeling any
Yeah.
of that.
In a curious mindset.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, being the beginner's mindset. I got quite a few takeaways from this, Doyle. Quite,
You got
quite,
some takeaways? All right. Well, let's hear your takeaways. We've got a lot of chat. The chat's been like blowing up this week, Rook. So you've been bringing
yeah.
it out of people. Our chat's
Oh,
been blowing up all week. We can read some of them. If people got our takeaways, this is the last week that we don't have Kimberly. Kimberly will be back next week. She's our take her away or wrap it up Acharya. And so in her absence, we are, yeah, that's her name, wrap it up Acharya. And
I
so
put a beautiful
we
great comments if you want to read it.
yeah, let's read a few comments. Let's get some takeaways, and then we'll have some takeaways. I'm just gonna go back as just I can't go all the way back, but Stephanie wrote, I also heard recently that adoration can also be dangerous because the focus takes us away from our own gifts and talents. For me, it's taking one baby step forward into developing my own boundaries to allow me to grow those gifts and talents. She got 3 different thumbs up emojis and a purple heart emoji on that one. Adoration. Yeah, I think that it's a fine line between like appreciation of someone else's gifts. And I think that it's so beautiful. And in the Gita, Krishna mentions that like what is that last verse of the close to last verse in the 10th chapter. I'll look it up real quick, where Krishna's talking about all the beautiful and wonderful things that exist in the world. And he says that um all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring, but from a spark of my splendor. So
Mm,
can I turn my envies also into appreciations? Somebody is just connecting to something beautiful, the source of beauty, the source of intelligence, the source of creativity, the source of strength is flowing through that person right now, you know? And it's just there's just an energy that's flowing through all of us. And so the obsession over somebody else can be unhealthy when it takes us away from it's actually, Prabhupada would use this phrase godless civilization sometimes, which sounds so like lawless and like
mm,
intense, but really it's like, wow, like I'm turning other people into like mini gods rather than
mm.
thinking like there's a higher power that we're all connected to and we're just borrowing energy at different places and times.
Yeah, I'm just reading a bit of this one beautiful comment that Jenna left. She said, when I try to know everything about others, I enter into a space I don't belong, which just that sentence is really beautiful. And she
Mm.
says that Krishna is the knower of all bodies. That's not my job, it's his job. And I just want to read that part because that's such a nice reminder that it's not our job to know everything about everyone.
Mhm.
And yeah, our job is to connect back to Krishna, not through everyone else's lives.
Yeah, so beautiful. She quotes the Gita further in her that same comment. The individual may be the knower of their own body, but is not knowledge of other bodies. And the purport in that verse in Gita 13:3 is from that.
Mhm.
I assume she's phrasing her own words now. I assume what others need and then try to fulfill it. But I don't know what they really experience, and fulfilling their needs is not my job. It's Krishna's. My job is to please Krishna's senses, which can happen through service to others, but not through controlling their lives. That knowledge is refreshing to accept.
Super
Thank you so much for that.
refreshing. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Super refreshing. Beautiful. Love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. What
Mm.
is before we close here today, what's your closing word takeaway from today, from this week, Rooks? We've had a beautiful week with you. Thank you so
No,
much.
thank you. This has been really nice for me. Really, really talk about refreshing.
What's your takeaway
Yeah,
from the
the whole week.
week?
The whole week. Well, it's nice to show up with friends for sure.
Your
And
friends.
it's nice to connect and talk about these things. And really, it's really, what's the word? It's like a relief to remember that we don't have to focus about others. It's really our journey that's so individual and unique, and embracing that is the most important. I think someone wrote above, embrace our shine. And I was like, yeah, that feels like a good takeaway for the week. What's
Yeah. Lane wants you to be back. I'm like, yeah. Um, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please check out Rockin' Rooksy on Instagram. Follow her. She's got great stuff. Get to know the different parts of yourself. Be creative. The
I'm gonna
journey
be
doesn't have
posting
to
my
end
drawing
here.
on Envy today.
Yeah,
So
go check out her drawing on Envy today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you soon in a couple weeks. In 1 month. One
yes, in
month.
1 month we'll
I'm
be in
going to
India
India,
together.
Vrindavan, India for Rukmini's wedding.
Can't believe I'm
And
getting
so,
married in a month. I'm not acting like a person who's supposed to be getting married next month.
yeah,
Been doing my
this is going to be
drawings
my
every
first
day.
wedding in India.
Wow, get ready for a big fat Indian wedding, like for real. For
Okay, I got it.
real.
Um,
Thank you, Lane.
awesome. Thank you so much, Rooks. Really, really appreciate you. Hope to
Thank
have you back
you.
soon. Next week, we got Kishore Gopal.
Oh, that's so nice. Maybe I'll tune
Yeah,
in just to hear from him.
my good friend Kishore Gopal is going to be with us. And the week after that, we're gonna have my wife's gonna be on the show. Rasika and I are gonna be on the show. And so we're gonna have fun there. We're gonna tell you All about our lives.
Dude, that's the best. That's what I'm here for, absorption in other people's lives. Well, especially my friends that I love. That's a
Yeah,
different.
friends that you love. And so
And one more quick comment. I think I saw a comment earlier, maybe from Richard, that this is the 100th episode. Is that true? Of Spirit Matters?
it's the 100th episode, he said, on Apple Podcasts, but I thought we celebrated our 100th episode a while ago because we started on the first week of January 2022.
Mhm.
So
I
that's
didn't know if you had a
today's
lot of
200. Today, Sydney said it's 209, but maybe it's the first one on Apple Podcast, which I don't know
whatever it
why.
is. Happy 100th on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, but it's actually our 209th episode overall.
That with 9 days, we should have celebrated. Anyway, congrats to you,
Yeah,
Doyle, for keeping
we're
up with
going
your
on. We're
community and
just
your
going on.
community.
If you
Wonderful.
didn't already, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are. Yeah, Apple Podcast started on 109. Yeah. Episode is 209 or 202, 210 on YouTube. Anyways, if you're following along, God bless you.
Yeah.
We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you all next week. We're paused for the weekend. See you on Monday. Bye-bye.